Hey everybody, I'm Kelly Blanchard, the author of the Chronicles of Lorik series. I also play Sifina in the Grand Quest games. With me today is the embodiment of chaos and mischief, but also known as Story Weaver, and Pat, our DM, who is the team lead for A Storyteller Tales.
Hey
And
everybody.
today I'm going to be asking him a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, and I will hopefully find one or two answers in there.
You do quite well just off the top of your head. How are you doing today first though?
Well, it's had a long night, a lot of video making and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm good. I'm good. I've got so much energy drink in me. I mean, I'm a cat on catnip right now. That's what it is. Let's go.
That's fantastic. That's what we need right now.
Especially because we got a recording later.
I know, right? I'm quite looking forward to that. I don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully it'll be good.
Oh, combat's gonna happen.
I know. I just hope nobody dies.
Oh yeah, it's early on, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was worried about this encounter in the first place, so I mean, we'll see.
That doesn't help me feel better, but
I
okay.
wasn't meant to.
I am not surprised whatsoever. That's what you do, and we tend to survive. So we'll see.
By a healthy hand of help. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
okay, so I'm going to start asking you some questions.
Go for it.
First of all, how long have you been playing D&D?
Ooh, 12 or 13. I'm 28. I'm gonna say like 12 is when I first started playing my first ever game. I am 28 years old now, so
Math.
16 years? 16 years, I think, yeah. Math. I'm a DM, everybody.
What? I know, we should do math.
I know,
we all
right?
hate math now.
Math Rocks does it for us.
It's supposed to. So what got you into D&D?
Actually, I've always had a very crazy imagination. It was I had played. It was a friend of mine who ran a game, and it was the first game I'd ever played in. I really enjoyed it, but something just wasn't like I had control issues. Like I felt like I was like after this game I'm gonna try running my own. Didn't have the books, didn't have any content besides the one session that I had played, and I was like, all right, I know there's these stats, I know so-and-so, don't know anything about the classes, so I'll just make up some stuff. Grabbed a couple notebook, wrote up some character sheets, gave it to some friends, and said, here you go, let's roll some dice, decide what this is. Completely forgot that there was a D20 involved, and I was like, I know it's something big. D12. And so we ran off a D12 system. It was fully homebrewed, but like,
oh wow.
Yeah, it developed it, and as growing up with split personality, having those moments where I would flip and everything like that. D&D was an amazing place for me because I could healthily deal with that problem, because every now and then it would just switch, and a new me would be another NPC, and eventually this just kind of became like a coping mechanism, and it carried it forward. So I never really let go of D&D. I always kept improving. For a while I was running with a single group, but thankfully I created the Storytellers Tales server, got a bunch more friends to play with from the internet. Then it just grew, and I think we're almost at 100 people on the server, and it's just, yeah, D&D, that's how it started. I mean, it just carried forward with that, so.
So, you mentioned you becoming a DM, but how much did you play before you became a DM?
A single session, probably about a 2-hour session. Yeah.
And that's it? You had no experience before that?
Yep, nope. Just a creative mind and a couple of good friends. So
and determination
and determination, yep, and the ability to pull everything out my butt. So
hey, it works. You do quite well.
I got Narnia up in there, I guess.
So, do you get to be a player in games at all, or are you a forever DM?
I in I am the definition of forever DM. I think in total, the last 2 years have been the most times I've ever played. I think I've only ever played in about 8 games total. 2 more coming up, which is gonna be put on, shameful advertisement, but coming up on Storytellers soon. But yeah, I think in the last 2 years, most of those games have I've had a chance to play in. Never last long though. Kind of feel like I'm cursed. But
from personal experience playing with you, I at least with one game.
Oh yeah, I pissed her character off. There was contention. But
the one shots were fine.
Oh yeah, that's how it always is. The one shots are fine. Everybody loves playing with me in one shots. It's when it's a campaign. It's like he just doesn't shut up.
I don't know why.
But yeah, I think
So,
eight times is probably a good estimate of how many times I've played in the 12 years.
now, are those like 8 campaigns or 8
Or 16
sessions?
years. That's eight like I would say it's 8 campaigns. If we go sessions, we go up to about 13 sessions total. Yeah.
That's still not a lot, but
Oh yeah, especially when you calculate 16 years of me running a game 5 to 6 times a week. Yeah.
okay, when you say 5 to 6 times a week, that's not like one session though. That's multiple games.
That's multiple games.
Or
yeah.
is it?
That is multiple games, yeah.
How do you keep it all straight?
My method is don't think about the game at all unless a player talks to me about their character until the day of the game. Because it's like my brain is a filing cabinet, but if I look into the filing cabinet too much, I have the chance to unorganize things. So when I put all the notes and the mental thoughts into that filing cabinet, don't touch it until the next game, because otherwise that might end up in Wednesday's game somehow. So.
But what happens when you are starting a brand new campaign and nothing is figured out yet? Do you do that? Or is it something you think about a little bit more?
I mean, I'd think of a premise. I'd talk to the players and be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? This is what I got. And then they're like, yeah, I enjoy that. And then I'm like, all right, I'll build the game 2 hours before the session. So...
Hey. Definitely one of those last minute kind of people, I suppose.
Yeah, I work best under pressure. A lot of the people in the server call me the 5-minute one-shotter, because if anybody wants a one-shot, they go to me and they say, hey, we'd like a one-shot. Well, it's gonna, we want to run it in like 5 minutes. Okay, and then I build one that everybody's like, I want this to be a real campaign, and I'm like, I don't know what I do with that. So, but
I think that just shows how great of a DM you actually are. So
it's a lot of it's ripping off of things. History.
Just don't
I'm
tell
a big
anybody
history buff. But
that's fascinating. So I want to get into more of the technical side of DMing and so forth. What is your opinion on fudging dice rolls?
Oh, nobody ever wants to die in an inopportune moment without any real consequence. Nobody wants to die from falling downstairs. It's dumb. You're a great hero. You die by a set of stairs. So when it comes to like really dumb things and you made the decision to have them roll, and you realize, oh no, this is gonna kill them, I made a bad choice, go for it. You're not there to uphold the holy boundary of the roll. You're there to create a wonderful, fun story for you and your players. And so if that means a fudge dice roll here, a fudge dice roll there, good for it. Just remember, you are not your player's enemy. So don't use the power of the DM screen for evil. You know what I mean? Like, don't ever fudge a roll for your benefit. Fudge it for their benefit. That's the only time it's okay. It's the only time.
That makes a lot of sense for sure.
That's what I'd have to say.
How do you handle interplayer conflict?
Is this inter-player or inter-character, like actual player v player or character v character, because they're handled
Let's
way
do
different.
character. Let's okay. Well, I want
Yeah.
the answer for both.
We want the answer
so
for
let's start
both.
with the character.
Okay.
I want the character first.
All right. Well, I mean, you got to set boundaries, and you got to make sure that your players understand. Like, take a step away from the game and talk to the players. Be like, hey, do not overstep certain respect boundaries that player has. Don't say something that you know is not going to be progressive. Try to push the RP forward with your argument. Yes, it's okay to have problems with each other in character, but if those problems are just going to amplify more problems, don't go that path. Be productive with your argument. Be productive with your complaint. Be productive with your comment. You are a player who's trying to push forward a story. Don't be that person who destroys it. And that's what you need to do as a DM. You need to set those boundaries, set those ground rules. Say, this is my arena, you're combatants, but these are the rules. You break it, you're done. So don't be afraid as a DM to step in. Don't, even if you don't have a way to do it RP wise, step in as the DM and say, okay, wrap it up. You guys are getting a little too heated, something like that. But if you can find a way to do it with story, go for it. You know what I mean? Because that's also a moment for you to be productive with the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what about with the actual players?
Oh, okay. So you need to play a little bit of Dr. Phil and a little bit of Jerry Springer. You know what I mean? You gotta be understanding of both sides, and you gotta pull them aside, get them away from the rest of the group. That way, no images are ruined or anything. Step out of the game for a moment and be like, all right, let's hash this out real quick. Like, let's talk about it. Let's be understanding. But it really depends on the issue. Like, if it's just a minor disagreeal about how somebody's playing their character, what a player did with their character, deal with it right there. If it's not dealable, you always need to remind your players, no D&D is better than bad D&D. If this is a problem that's not going to be able to be solved, and it's just going to ruin the game for both of you, or at least one of you, then whichever one is the most hurt by the situation or just can't forgive and move forward, it's a sad thing, but it's better than suffering. You know what I mean? But we're always reaching. You should always reach to solve the situation. Don't be passive. Don't let it build up, because if you're a passive DM, a passive player, and you're just going to let it pile on, little things are going to become big things, and you just should deal with them. So my tip would be, pull your players aside, the ones that are having issues, let them hash it out a little bit. Sure, they might say some things, but you need to be there to be the ringleader, the bouncer, the referee, and try to bring them to a point of understanding. If not, then you need to do the call. You need to be decisive enough to say, okay, this is not a game that's obviously going to be fun for you. I can't fix this problem. You guys can't fix this problem. So what are we doing here? Is one of you leaving? Both of you leaving? What's up? Or are you going to do your very best to solve this problem, be adults? I've had issues in the past where some people have just taken things a little too far, and I had to pull them aside and talk to them, and thankfully it got worked out. But just don't be afraid to make a choice. You're the one that's kind of in charge of the game, So
exactly. Yeah, you're the DM. You should remind people of the boundaries and keep things going forward.
Yep. So. That is.
So my next question is, I kind of find it a little bit funny, just because I think I am this character, this player. Do you ever get frustrated with those players who play it safe or are afraid to take risks?
If that's what their character does, if their character, like in one of our games, Kathia, your character, this is one that's not recorded yet. She's a paranoid person. She's a careful person. You making careful choices with her makes sense. You know, I'm not gonna have an issue with that. I am if down the line she never grows, she never slightly gets a little bit more riskier, or she just never gets a little bit better at planning, and she's just always a paranoid mess for the entirety of the game, then I'm gonna have a little issues. I'm gonna say, hey, your character's not really growing. We should work on that. But if like she's like, if like the character's like Syphina from the Grand Quest, honestly, Syphina's careful, but she's also reckless. Like she thinks, but when it comes time to make a quick action, she acts first. Like if she has the time to think, she'll think. But if she doesn't, it's actions first. So that character being constantly played careful when the moments don't fit the character, yeah, I get a little frustrated. I'm like, hey, if you want anything to be done with your character, you need to take that chance. You need to go for it. Like you'll message me, Kelly. You'll message me about things, and I'm like, just try it. You know, I'm not going to tell you as the DM if it'll succeed or if it'll fail, but at least you'll try, and that trying will give a moment in the RP. It'll give a moment in the story. So, and so I guess yeah, sometimes I can be frustrated by it, but really, it takes everybody their own time to grow into RPing, to grow into taking risks. And if they're new to D&D and they don't really know it, I'd have to say to DMs, be patient. You know, work with them, be patient. Don't coddle them. Let them experience failure, but just remind them that failure is a part of the game, and it is, you know, it tells a story of its own. So, you know, encourage them to try things, but just be patient. That's the biggest thing, because it's gonna help so much more.
So talking about like characters, you know, because if you have characters think too much, it slows things down, and you know, the players have to make decisions and so forth, even especially in combat.
Yeah.
But IP can slow things down too, like they get too busy trying to make a plan or something. What, you know, what do you do to keep the story from slowing down too much?
Consequences. If a party has a set amount of time to plan, they're going to plan quickly and decisively. You know, if they're just given like, okay, it's time to do some planning, and there's no like clear boundary of time, there's no clear consequences if they take too long. It's just too free, and they're going to sit there for IRL time, probably 6-7 sessions, just talking about a plan that has never had any moment, and you're going to be in that one day for forever, so many weeks. And so, like, as the DM, you really just be like, okay, you have, you know, I'm going to let you guys plan for this night, but once the night is over, that's it. You need to put that plan into motion, you know, and at the end, the night will end this session. You know, you have one session to plan. Do it. Or you have, you know, we're going to do, you know, we're going to give you like 15-20 minutes to plan, and then it's the next day, and your plan needs to go into motion. And if they're like, oh, well, what happens if we don't make a plan? Well, it's going to suck for you, because you're going to go into it without a plan, and you're probably going to die. Like, so make a plan and hope it's good. But, yeah. I think I did that in the Grand Quest. The episode isn't out yet, so I'm not going to give any spoilers. But yeah, I did that. I set those ground rules, and you guys did pretty good. You made a plan and everything.
Made a plan.
So, yeah.
But what about in combat, making you know, making a decision, having to make a decision, and taking time to make that decision?
Best way to do it.
What?
Set a time. You have 1 or 2 minutes for your turn. I prefer the 1 minute plan. Like, you better be thinking about your plan the whole time before it's your turn. You have plenty of time to do it. But once it's your turn, you have 1 minute to enact that. You know,
Yeah.
otherwise I'm passing your turn. You're just gonna take the dodge action. So it's you know, and then also if the player keeps doing that, like, yeah, I get it. If you're a wizard, you have a lot of stuff to do, right? Compared to the fighter over there who's just gonna bonk, 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 bonk. It's a little harder, but also you have like everybody else's turns to at least think of like 2 or 3 plans, and you know, you're a wizard, you're intelligent. Play it like that. But yeah, setting a time limit again is a good idea for that. If they're continuously doing it and it's bogging down combat, who's to say an enemy doesn't get a shot in while they're sitting there staring at them? Or, you know, make sure that your players also know, like, hey, talking is a free action. Call them out. Say, hurt, make a choice. Do something. Cast a spell. You know, maybe call out a spell you know they have that would be super helpful here. You know? Not as a player, no, you have, but as a character. Like, if your paladin knows the wizard has, like, meteor strike way down the line, and you're fighting a big dragon or something, like, the wizard just sitting there like, oh, I have so many spells, what do I do, paladin? Kill him with a meteor! Like, hit him with a big rock! Then the wizard's gonna be like, okay, and do it. So,
but what happens if a character has a plan and gets to the turn and they say, I'm going to do this, and everybody else is like, no, that's a bad idea, you should do this, you should do this. Everybody starts throwing all these other ideas, and that player suddenly has no idea what they should do. What do you recommend that player do?
Play your character. If you hear an idea in that mix, like, you know, if you're a person who's like, no, I'm dead set on doing what my character wants to do, tell them, you know, hey, I appreciate it, but it's my turn. Let me play my character, please. But if you're a person who's open to ideas and likes listening to those ideas, hear them out. If you hear a good idea that's better than your own, go for it. I mean, but if not, go for your original plan. But you gotta not be afraid to say, hey, let me play my character. Let me make my own choices. You know, they're trying to help you, yes, but there is a level that is too much. There's a line that they can cross, and you need to remind them of that line sometimes. You know, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do want to shift over to, you know, you giving advice to beginning players and your thoughts and things like that. What would you say would be the easiest class for somebody who's starting off playing?
Fighter. Fighter or rogue. Like
Why
I said,
do you
like
say that?
fighter, if you just get it, like, sure, you can complicate things by going like Echo Knight or, you know, Rune Knight or something like that, right? But if you pick like champion, you know, if you pick samurai, you pick, you know, all these like basic fighters, you're literally just every turn going to be like, oh, I bonk, then I bonk again. Oh wait, what's that? Another bonk. Oh, hold on, action surge. Now I'm gonna bonk you 4 more times. You know, like it's a really easy class for people to just learn the base mechanics. Then you can start delving into some more interesting ones like Battle Master, Echo Knight, you know, Rune Knight. You know, there's also, you know, you can go into the Barbarian, which is also super easy to do. You bonk, you get bonked. Make sure you use your bonus action to rage. Like, but Rogue is super easy too, because you only got 1 attack. You just need to focus on making sure you don't have a disadvantage to it. One of your allies is up there most of the time. If not, hide behind a tree with your bonus action. Now shoot them. Boom, big damage because it's a sneak attack. You know, it's, you know, and then if you really want to get complicated, you can go into some of the other ones, but they're nowhere near as complicated as like Wizard or you know, Bard, Warlock. You know, they're Artificer's complicated. But I would say those 2 classes, throwing in Barbarian as a third. But if you want to do spells,
you kind of
Yeah,
kind of hinted at the other complicated ones, but what class would you definitely not recommend that they
wizard.
pick?
Don't do wizard.
Wizard.
Even on
I
D&D
agree with
Beyond,
that.
it doesn't even help you. It's like your spell book can get more spells in it, but you can only prepare these amount of spells, but it doesn't tell you how many spells you can put in your spell list. And then yes, you can go through this, you can do that, blah blah blah. It's just a lot. And then that's not even counting in the subclass crap. Like, give yourself a little bit of time with the D&D mechanics. Let yourself listen a little bit to some other classes. Unless you're a person who really likes to read and has like the lost skill of comprehension, then then go for it. But otherwise, if you want a magic class, run cleric, or warlock is pretty simple. I mean, when it comes to spellcasters, I mean, but honestly, cleric's pretty easy. When it comes to it, I would say the 3 easiest spellcasters is cleric, druid, and warlock.
Druid has the whole wild shaping and conjuring animals, and that gets confusing really fast.
Yeah, it can. That's why I still don't recommend. I would classify druid as the last one you should try on the easy tier, but compared to, in my opinion, compared to bard, compared to wizard, compared to artificer, compared to sorcerer, yeah. But again, that's my opinion. So
yeah.
Some people might find some of these more difficult ones, in my opinion, to be a lot easier than some of the more ones that I think are easy. So just really read the class. Read the class. That's the biggest thing.
Do you have any recommendations of the race of beginners to choose? Like, I know variant human is like the easy one, or elf, but is there any?
Well, variant human is definitely, it's easy, but you can get a little bit lost in the feats. I would definitely say like halfling, dwarf, elf. Funny enough, minotaur. The minotaur, it's pretty easy. You just run at them. Really? Yeah, I would definitely say like a lot of the basic rules stuff that D&D has are pretty simple. Elf is really simple. The best benefit of them is you get a little bit of spell casting, and you no longer have to do 8 hours for a long rest. You just have to do 4. So, but human, elf, halfling, dwarf, those are the ones. Tiefling's pretty easy. So yeah, basic rule stuff. Yeah, just following the basic rules, like races, super easy. So
yeah,
just make sure you read it. As you can tell, I've had a lot of people who've been in my games who just didn't read any of it, and they're like, "Well, what do I do with this?" It's like, did you not read it? So
yeah. So role playing IP requires a lot of improv for the players.
Yeah.
And the DM, but what would you recommend to a player who isn't confident in their improv abilities? What would you recommend that they do to improve, or at least build confidence?
Try to team up with another player you feel pretty comfortable with. Do some scenes with them. Try to ride along with their RP as much as you can. Like, if your hunter ranger is currently having an issue because he's in a territory he's not used to, and he feels lackluster, and he's wanting to RP this, go for it. Go there and just do what you would normally do with a person who feels down. Comfort them. And the more you do this, the more you just do what you think a normal person would do, or anybody would do, or hell, even you do. The easier it's going to become, because the more connected you feel to the other players, the more it's less of an RP, the more it is talking to your friends.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you say to people who want to play D&D but they're intimidated by it? because it's a lot of stuff to keep in mind.
Don't be too intimidated. It's pretty simple when it comes down to it. You're just rolling dice and talking. If you're an entire group of people who are new, all the better. I mean, learn together. But remember, rule number 0, 1, 2, and 3 there of D&D is the DM makes the final call. The rules are just suggestions, and have fun. So if you guys want to add something to it or change a ruling, or you don't understand a ruling, so you're going to make it to something that you do understand, or you want to simplify the entire process of D&D and make it super easy like I did because I didn't understand any of it, go for it. Slowly learn as you go. Don't think you need to jump into the water in the deepest end first. Go from the shallow to the deep. Don't fear the water. That's the biggest thing.
So you homebrew your own world, and that's what you play in for the most part.
Yep, the Valor world. So yep.
So can you tell me what inspired all that?
A lot of history. So basically, how the gods, what happened with the gods is that there was a war between the elementals and the spirits, and the elementals decided that they wanted the world. And so along with the help of somebody who shouldn't have helped them, they were able to get into the celestial realm and push them out of the world, being caught off guard. They couldn't kill them, so they just pushed them out and sealed them out. This was a concept that I built up from where there was a time in history where we went from gods to, we went from like spirits and folklore and the earth and the elements to gods, and then we moved back into the spirits and the elementals, and it's an ever-shifting battle between deities and natural beings. So I wanted to represent something like that in my game, which is a pretty big thing in the game. It's kind of like it's the focus point of the entire thing. It's not seeable just yet, but it is. I wanted to also because I love history, I wanted to pull some things from history and make it more fantasy. So I took different countries and different folklores, different times of history, and created something. Like in Owlore, during the Grand Hunt, which is a super dark time of Owlore, it was very, very bad, where the non-human races were basically brought to near extinction, and they were in hiding for so long that they fell into myth, like we see those things today. Except there was an order that was built up to keep these things from ever being seen again, and they would burn whole villages if even one person saw one of these things. They would hunt them regularly. It was just bad. This was based off of different points in time, like clearly, the whole near extinction thing is how we treat animals. We hunt them to extinction like nothing. And then, the superior race thing, I brought that in. I wanted it to be as dark as humanly possible, adding in the French Revolutionary War in there with how zealoty they were acting. But I wanted to be able to create an idea that they could fight their way out of it. They could correct things, and that's what happened with a group of adventurers who fought to fix this. The Crusades are also represented in there through the Church of the Father, that was based around that the original king of Owlore became a deity, and he said that they basically convinced everybody that this fictional person told them that they were the only ones that were allowed to be on this planet. And it just created terrible, terrible times. But the adventurers defeated them, and that church was outlawed. So yeah, I mean, I guess in Valordis, I took a lot. There's a lot of representations of how, Staglinia is very close represented to a reverse of kind of the Salem witch trials, where if you didn't have magic, you were kind of seen as a lesser being and not really liked or whatever. But also at the same time, if you didn't fall in line with their beliefs, you were seen as an evil spellcaster and you were put to death. So it's a complicated thing, but yeah, I definitely would have to say that I wanted a world that could represent history in a more fantasy version.
That is fascinating.
So, yep.
Very, very fascinating. So what advice would you give to DMs who are considering homebrewing their own world or making their own modules?
Don't get too bogged down in the details. Biggest thing, you don't need an entire economy structure. You don't need price values of things that fluctuate. You don't need all of these things. Just start with the most chunky parts. What does your world look like? What's the kind of ruling structure? Is it a democracy? Is it a republic? Is it a monarchy? Is it maybe a little bit of mix of both? What's the primary races in that, in that world, or is it a combination of everything, like in the Sword Coast? What issues would they have? What villains have they had in the past? What is the most reoccurring doomsday that they've had? Stuff like that. Like, what's the reason why adventurers become adventurers? Is it for glory? Does the country, does the world value adventurers? Is it a good way to make money because jobs aren't that good? And then you just cycle down through these steps. And don't be afraid to take some suggestions from your players. Let them help you build the world. Like, if they have something that they build for their character that is just super awesome, and they're like, a good example, Rapid, who plays Sif. He, in our first game, when I first ran the Grand Quest game, before it was, a thought-out module, he had built a character based off of Dark Souls. He used Griffith, but he had changed it a lot, and he decided to build an entire order of the Ornsteins and stuff like that. And I liked it so much. I liked what he did so much that I actually built an entire thing for it. So in Valordis, in Alframe, there's a place called the Ornstein Keep, which is where the Ornsteins originally came from. They're a more militaristic, Spartan-like society that eventually fell apart after their leader died and became a protector over this Child of Stone, which was Griffith. When this happened and Valordis and Alor split, when they were once Valor, the father had taken the child, the Child of Stone, to the other place with a large group of Ornsteins over there. And over time, in Drutho, they've kind of fallen from glory and are now are led by this tyrannical lesser Ornstein. So, which, by the way, we're going to touch on those things in the Heroes of Alor game that's going to be coming out after Season 1 of Grand Quest, so keep a lookout for that. Yeah. But, so, like, that's something that I built with one of my characters, one of my players. They had, and that's the thing, is that you got to be willing to take those moments. You can't just be like, no, this is my world, I developed these things. It's like, no, it's better if it's a world built by people that you care about,
Yeah.
Sure, it's still your world, but let them play a part. They'll like the game a whole lot more. They'll love the world a whole lot more because they feel connected to the world. It's the biggest thing. So it's really easy, though. Homebrewing a world is really easy when you just don't focus on the tiny details and let them get solved out throughout the playing time.
Well, one of these days, I guess I'll have to figure it out then. But I'm not even DMing, so I'm not there yet.
Yet.
Yet. So maybe one day, but not yet.
Yeah.
I have too much stuff going on in my head. I have my books, so I can't.
Oh yeah. But it would be an interesting thing to see eventually one day your book world to be kind of turned into this little like tabletop world. Like you don't even have to use D&D. Heck, make your own tabletop role playing game for it. But that's down the road.
The only issue with that is you just said that you have the players should have a part in developing it. Mm-hmm. Whereas as a writer, I was like, no, it's my word, you can't touch it. So yeah, I don't know how that would translate.
There is a difference, but I mean, you've already gotten pretty good. I mean, Tenelith from Grand Quest is from your world, and you let me play with Tenelith a little bit. So, it really. Remember, there's something that I like to say is that there is personal lore and world lore. World lore never changes. Personal lore changes for that game. So one thing could be developed in the game, but for the next group that plays or the next time you play, it's not there anymore because it was personal lore. So unless you as the DM really liked aspects of that personal lore that you want to make it world lore. So
yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Remember, it is still your world. So you do get to choose what gets added in officially and what doesn't. So.
Yeah, I just have 9 books, so I have one series, and 5 books in another series of all this lore, so I can't really,
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
But you have to understand the magic in my world is completely different from D&D. The races are completely different. So I don't know how it would translate.
Yeah, that's why I said, think about maybe making your own little TTRPG. Plenty of people have done it. They've made TTRPGs for different books. I mean, the Star Wars universe got turned into a TTRPG. Lord of the Rings did too. So...
Guess I should look into that one of these days, just because I can't. I can't
not
do
right
it.
now.
Yeah.
Let's not add more onto that plate that's already breaking under the pressure.
Exactly. Well, Pat, I have really, really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned quite a bit, so I hope that you have enjoyed it as well.
Oh, 100%.
But. Yeah. Maybe we can do it again and discuss something very particular. I'm not sure, but
yeah, awesome. And also, if any other questions or ever, if you ever have any other questions, go to Storytellers Tales at Facebook and post it. Everybody on there, wonderful, and will love to answer your questions, no matter how simple it might seem.
And the thing about that is, even if you're afraid to ask the question, you might ask a question that somebody else is afraid to ask. And so I would say definitely ask the question. Yeah. Because somebody else might be wanting to ask the exact same question, but they're too afraid.
Oh, yeah. So, yep.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay. Well, I will let you go. Thank you so much
no problem.
for this conversation.
Yep.
All right. You take care.
Yep. See you, everybody.
Alrighty. Bye.